Hey, hey, hope everyone's doing well. Um, just felt like going out today, having a little soak on the beach, enjoying the scenery, the breeze, the fresh air. And I wanted to make a video today talking about things in the world recently that I feel like I really want to get it out, talk about it. I'm realizing that a lot of things now are being reversed, like the natural order of things are being reversed, you know? Like the thing with AI, for example, where aren't we the ones supposed to create art, explore, create? But yet we have the AI creating art and music, and not only that, thinking for us. And we are the ones mindlessly working in warehouses, doing jobs where we honestly should have no business doing when we have all the technology necessary for it to be done for us. You know, you would think that with the introduction of new technology, life would get easier. But what's happening is the exact opposite. Life is getting worse, right? And the technology is helping life get worse. You know what I mean? It's a very, very backward sort of order to things. And I realize a lot of the people who run these billion-dollar corporations, and a lot of these people who, you know, want to do everything they can to live forever as long as possible, some very evil people, they are deliberately trying to invert the natural order of things. I like to refer to it as the reverse Ouroboros, because as you know, the Ouroboros, it's like a great snake or dragon, if you want to call it that, eternally eats its own tail. It keeps in a infinite circle, right? And that is the natural order of things. It's one huge cycle. You live, you die, you live, you die, you experience things. It's how life is. It's how everything operates. The earth operates on an infinite cycle. It has its seasons. It has the way the moon interacts with the earth in terms of the tides. Everything happens in a cycle, an infinite cycle that goes on and on. What these individuals are trying to do, they're trying to reverse it. They're trying to make it go backwards, you know, which is incredibly dangerous for, I mean, obvious reasons, no, like just for the earth. Wow. If you try to reverse the natural cycle of things, you would destroy the earth. Simple as that. And the same thing applies with humans. Our natural order of things. We are designed. We are meant to explore, create, have community, right? It can only take so much of the inverse for us to really have to sit down with ourselves and think, what the hell is going on? Because the way we are living right now is not natural. And I'm happy to say that most people now have come to that realization. You know, the way we live right now is simply just not natural. Having to constantly be on edge, constantly have to be in survival mode. A lot of people work paycheck to paycheck. They know that if, God forbid, something were to happen to them, they were to lose their job, they would lose everything, their car, their house, some people even their family, you know, constantly in survival mode. you know you have to fight tooth and nail just for your basic needs. I'm talking about the most basic of the basic: food, water, shelter, clothing. you know, as if those things were not a given for you just for being alive, just for existing, like as if you don't deserve to live a healthy, comfortable life just for being born. The whole term of earn a living, it's so sick when you really think about it. Like, wow, you were born here, you didn't have a choice being born here. Well, we did. I'd say we do have a choice being born here, but in the context that you are born a baby knowing nothing, you didn't have a choice, right? And you have to now earn the right to be alive. Like, how insane does that sound? No other animal does this, by the way. There are some animals that are very, I guess you could say, ruthless when it comes to the young, but there is no such thing as a concept of earning the right to live. You know, especially when it comes to intelligent beings. I could understand that for, let's say, again, the animals, where even though they don't have that concept, right, because they're not intelligent, nature takes its course. There's a lot of things that happens, a bird lays eggs and a snake comes and eats one of the eggs. You know what I mean? Like something like that. But for us as intelligent beings, the fact that you know we have to earn the right just to be alive, and that's enforced on us by other human beings, that's crazy. Imagine that another person is enforcing the notion that you don't deserve to just be alive. You don't. You have to earn it. It's absolutely insane. The fact that someone could tell you, hey, you don't deserve to live. Matter of fact, you got to earn it. But the funny part is that when you try to earn this so-called living, it's made so difficult for you to the point where, again, you're in a constant state of survival, right? We are in a world now where people are becoming increasingly antisocial, right? Increasingly antisocial. People don't talk to each other anymore. There's a huge lack of community as there used to be. Um, People are becoming increasingly more isolated, and it's a problem. It's a huge problem that needs to be addressed. You know, uh, Again, with the introduction of these new technologies and things, it's making it worse, right? There's a lot of people now out there that instead of going out there and having conversations with actual people or trying to introduce themselves to new people, they're having talks with Chat GPT, with Claude, as if they're like their personal friend or personal assistant, or worse yet, therapist. The amount of people I've seen, they're like, oh, I had this personal problem, this deeply personal problem, and I was struggling with this. And, I went to talk to Chat GPT about it. And I'm like, hello? You using this thing as a therapist? Are you crazy? Like, I can't I can't even explain how insane that is. The fact that we've come to that point, to that stage in life where people are using an AI, an artificial intelligence that isn't even real, to comfort them. Like, I can't even I can't even explain like how insane that is. A lot of people question if we're in a dystopia. We are already in a dystopian society. Like, we are already here. I mean, it's already happening. Again, people don't. Instead of going out and finding relationships, people are referring to pornographic material. You know, and it's like, yeah, they don't really. To them, it's like, well, it's so difficult to go out there and talk to people. And not only is it difficult, which is true, it is increasingly getting more difficult, so they're not wrong. But on top of that, you know, what I hear the most is, well, what's the point? Why do I need to go out and find a relationship when I can just get what I need from the comfort of my screen, my computer screen or TV screen or whatever they're using, right? Um, it's becoming more and more easy to just stay at home and do nothing. And I think that's a huge problem, a huge issue. There are so many, especially what do they call this current generation? Generation X, I believe. I've realized something with this current generation. They almost don't know what being bored feels like. They actually, most of them actually have no idea what that even feels like. They have never experienced being bored before. They don't know what that's like, which I find is so baffling, right? Because, you know, that's the generation right after me, and I know what feeling bored felt like. Trust me, I do. you know, so it's like you want to do something interesting, but you don't know what to do. So you just sort of sit with the feeling. You know what I mean? Um, these kids nowadays don't know what that's like. There's so much constant stimulation, 24/7, constant 24/7 stimulation, where they almost can't be bored. There's so much slop, so much mental junk food, I would call it, to consume. So it's almost impossible for them to feel that feeling. There's always something to watch, there's always something to play, there's always something, you know? The social media, the endless doom scrolling, YouTube, endless videos, the endless amount of video games you could play online, and the list goes on and on and on, right? It creates a generation that is like numb, just completely numb to everything. They can't feel anymore. And not only do they um, are they incapable of feeling, they don't really care. They're very complacent, docile. It kind of reminds me of the people from the movie Wally. I don't know if you guys have seen that one before, but it reminds me of them. It's reached a point where it's like, these people are so easily controlled, so easily manipulated, right? You just have to show them, oh, this is the next cool, trendy thing, and they will listen to you like a flock of sheep. They only care about what's trendy, cool, what appeals to the ego, you know. Um, and it's all about entertainment and pleasure. That's all it is. It's a very hedonistic um, culture that has been promoted these for years. I was gonna say past couple of years, but no, it's been promoted for decades. It's only just gotten so much more worse now, but it's always been promoted. This sort of hedonistic culture where it's all about entertainment and pleasure. That's all. That's all life is. That's all there is to life. You know, and not to say that I am shunning people who pursue that lifestyle, right? That's not what I'm doing. The point that I'm trying to make is that, you can have that mindset, that's all well and good, but you need to have balance in everything, right? You can't just fully dive into that and just be like, yes, that's all there is to life. Like, trust me when I say you're going to become a very numb and apathetic individual, you know? That's why, a lot of times you see these people who they end up making it, they become super famous, they end up getting a lot of money, and they're still deeply unhappy. And they try so many things to escape that feeling. They do, because they have all these resources now, all this money, this wealth. They do a whole bunch of things, you name it, drugs, you know, promiscuity, you know, very extreme sports, and anything just to feel something. And that is the danger of diving all the way into this sort of hedonistic culture. You become numb. You become so hyper stimulated all the time to where you can't feel anymore because you're constantly always stimulated. And it makes sense. If you're constantly stimulated 24/7 over and over and over, there's only a matter of time before you just become numb to everything, to anything. You can't, nothing really matters to you anymore because it's like, well, you're getting like shoved dopamine into you like every minute. You know what I mean? It's a problem, seriously. People really need to like have a dopamine detox, a digital detox. It's really important. And even I myself, I'm realizing it's starting to happen to me as well. I'm not immune to this stuff. This stuff can and will affect me as well. you know I realize these days that I myself, I'm like, what, I'm thinking about it. When was the last time I felt bored? you know And thankfully, I've been feeling that boredom recently these past couple of days, and I'm actually thankful for it because I can't remember when last I felt like that. You know, it was only when the only time I really remember feeling bored was when I was like younger, when I was a kid. You know, feeling bored and not knowing what to do and just sitting with that feeling of boredom. And I ended up creating some of the most amazing things when I was in that state. You know, that boredom, that frustration, it pushes you to make something of yourself, to do something, to create. I am fed up of just consuming slop over and over, and that's all I do, just consume slop. I am fed up of it, and I know there's a lot of other people out there that probably feel the same way. Just fed up of it. You know, and the issue is that you know you want to create, but because you're always surrounded by so much stimulation, it's hard for your mind to be in a space to create. And that is why detoxing is so important, right? That's why the feeling of boredom is so important, because now it allows your mind to be in a space to actually create something. So that's what I'm working on, because I have a lot of ideas I want to work on. There's a lot of things I want to create. But what I realize is that even if I want to create something, I can't get my mind in that state if I don't detox for a while. And that's something I'm realizing now that I need to implement. So that's what I'm working on. I realize that, even though the desire is there, I want to create and I have my ideas laid out, it's very difficult for me to switch my mind into creative mode if I'm constantly stimulated. You know what I mean? So that's why again, as I said, the detox is very important. You need to take time off, like shut off your phone, shut off calls, social media, everything, and just take some time for yourself to just sit and do nothing, literally. If you want to read a book or something, a good book, mind you, not some like mindless, something that actually like teaches you something. If you want to read a good book, or you wanna go out and meditate in nature, that's fine. But just detox and do nothing, right? Or at least do something productive, right? Feel that feeling of boredom. It may feel absolutely frustrating, and there's a lot of people who do anything they can to run away from it. But that's a mistake. Running away from that feeling is a huge mistake. Um, you don't want to do that. You want to sit with it and just yeah, sit with it. I'm going to try and do that. And I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard, but I want to try to just sit down and do nothing. Just meditate. Just sit and just my mind might be racing. Oh my god, I want to do this. I want to do that. Oh my god, I'm not stimulated. That's okay. We'll be okay. Nothing's going to hurt me, right? I'm not gonna die just by sitting down and relaxing myself. I'm gonna be okay. You have to train your mind to be okay, to not constantly be stimulated all the time, you know? Because again, the way the impact this is having on not just us individually, but as a whole, it's extremely detrimental, like extremely. Um, I just saw a video the other day about teachers. A lot of teachers are quitting now. They're quitting because to them teaching these kids, or trying to, I should say, teach these kids is just a waste of time. The kids, they're not motivated. They don't want to learn. They don't care. And the thing is, again, can you really blame them, right? Of course, they're not gonna care. As I said, when you're constantly stimulated 24/7, you become numb to everything. You don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. You know, the world is becoming increasingly nihilistic. You know, can you imagine that we have kids as young as 8 who are like bona fide nihilists or nihilists, however you pronounce that. And it's like, really? Since when did you turn into such a philosopher at such a young age? You know what I mean? But again, you can't really blame them because that's what they're being raised to be like, And you can't just say, oh, it's society, it's society's fault. No, it's our fault too as adults. It's something you allow to happen. Especially for, let's say, parents. You have to take a very proactive role in your child's life, you know, to ensure things like this don't happen. You know, you have to be proactive. If you're not, your child is just going to end up just like the rest. You know, you're going to have somebody on your hands who doesn't care, doesn't want to do anything about their life, um, and just will just listen to what's the next big cool thing, and just that's all they will do for the rest of their life. You know, um, and that's something I'm sure, to any parent watching this, that's something you absolutely want to avoid at all costs. You don't want that for your child, right? So it really does fall on us individually to be more proactive in ensuring that this does not happen to our children and that it doesn't happen to us, right? It starts with us first before we can even focus on helping anybody else. Once we able to have balance in everything, because again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't play games and don't have fun, and don't do exciting. That's not what I'm saying. That's part of life, to enjoy yourself, right? But you have to, everything has a balance. That's like one of the core tenets of life. Balance in everything you do. Balance, right? Anytime you overdo something, it is detrimental to you. You overeat, that's unhealthy. You undereat, that's unhealthy. You drink too much water, that's unhealthy. You don't drink enough water, that's unhealthy too. Has to be balance in everything you do. That is the key to life. And I am fully aware that can be very difficult to do. And it is. It's not easy to be balanced all the time, especially in this world with the way things are structured. The way things are structured now is designed to keep you unbalanced, because that's how you are easier to control, to manipulate. When someone is not balanced, they can't think straight. They can't make the correct decisions. They would quicker pass that decision making on to somebody else. They would quicker just shut down and live life like a drone, like a robot, because it's easier. That's why balance is so important. It helps you stay within your sovereignty, it helps you take back control, right? It helps you live your life to the fullest where you're not feeling numb anymore. You don't feel empty. You actually feel fulfilled and live your life to the fullest, you know? So it's something where it's not trivial, you know, it's really not. It's really important to your growth as a person. So I'm saying all this to say, you know, we really need to keep our head on our shoulders, you know what I mean? Um, because again, you know, even me myself, I'm not immune to this sort of thing, you know. And I've been talking about so far. What I've been talking about is you know, the whole this whole aspect of balance in a societal aspect. Um, you know, how things are structured, but this affects relationships as well, because you know, again, I've realized a lot of people now, they, as I mentioned earlier, they just don't see the point, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to go out there and actually have a good relationship with others, because people are losing the art of conversation, because people are becoming so much more incredibly isolated and self-serving and opportunistic. People don't know how to have a conversation anymore. They don't, or they think whenever somebody talks to them, this person is talking to them simply because they want something from them. I cannot tell you how many times this has happened to so many other people and myself included. This is, it's like anytime you approach someone, 9 times out of 10, they think you want something from them. Oh, you're just talking to me because you want something from me. You either want my money, my time, my resources, or you want my sexual energy. You know, you can't just talk to somebody just for talking's sake. They always think that you want something from them. That's a huge problem. How could you ever connect with anybody if you think that everybody is out to get you? Think about that. How could you ever connect with anybody? And for me personally, that's why, you know, even if you're going out and being active and, you know, being social, even for the ones who are doing the right thing, it's becoming more difficult because everybody thinks like, oh, you must want something from me. Like, that's why I say, for me personally as a man, I've grown, to be quite honest, very tired of approaching women. I really have. I have to be honest. I'm not gonna lie and pretend, you know, as if like it's not affecting me as well. You know, because most times if I approach a woman, right, 9 times out of 10, for me personally, right, I'm not making up a number. I'm being completely honest. She thinks that, oh, it's just because, oh, I just want to get in her pants, or you know, it's because, you know, I want something from her, or any one of the fickle options or fickle mindsets one may have, right? Or because she is in such a defensive mindset, or because she's in survival mode, if I approach her, um, she will lash out at me as if, you know, I've just done her some great wrong, right? Or I get lashed out at and I get hurt, and it's for no reason. It's like, well, I'm just approaching you. I'm saying hi. How you doing? You know, I think you're really attractive. Do you want to go out on a date? Maybe get to know each other better, or something like that, right? Uh, because she's in such a mindset where she's constantly in survival, and let's say she's been wronged by some men before I've come into the picture, right? Or the world has beaten her down. You know, if I go ahead and approach her now, she ends up taking all that anger that rage, that trauma out on me when I've done her nothing, right? You know, that's why, to be quite honest, I've just gotten tired, very tired, you know. And I'm seeing so many people saying, well, that's how it is. You know, it's the man's job to approach women. And the thing is, I'm like, to be honest, I've reached a point where I just don't care. I'm like, well, my woman will have to be a very special woman because she'll have to approach me at this point. Like I have approached so many women, to the point where it gets to a point where you just get tired. Like imagine this, right? Imagine you're constantly approaching people, and almost every single time you get hurt for it, you get insulted, you get pushed away. There's only a matter of time before you yourself just become tired. Like it's like, how much more pain can I take? you know no man is invincible. As much as he may want to believe it, as much as women may want to believe that, no man is invincible, right? There's only so much pain and rejection he can take before he just clocks out. And unfortunately, I feel like that's where I'm at. Like I'm just done. Like I'm just not. It's not to say that I don't want a relationship. I do. I want to start a family. I want to have a loving partner. But I've reached a point where it's become so dangerous and so painful for me to just approach a woman. What's the point? And I know I'm speaking about this from a male perspective, but I'm sure there are women out there that feel the same way as well. Or as far as I know, again, I can't speak for women since I'm not a woman. But I'm sure there are some women out there that are feeling the same way, where they're just tired. What's the point of trying to approach a guy you know if they're just gonna get hurt for it? You know what I mean? Um, so even for the ones who are trying to keep their heart open, even for the ones that are trying to actually do something with their life, go out there, not stay cooped up in their house and just be a mindless zombie. It's becoming increasingly difficult for us as well because again, there's only so much one can take before you're just tired. It's like being a, how should I what's a good analogy? I know, well, I guess the simplest one is it's like being a light surrounded by so much darkness. It's like, yes, you shine, you shine, you shine, and that's who you are deep inside. You're a light. Well, we all are, honestly. Well, most of us. Let's put it that way. Don't think about that too deeply. But let's just say, for the sake of my analogy, let's just say all of us are lights, right? Um, and you're surrounded by so much darkness. There's only so much you can tolerate before it's like, okay, I don't seem to be getting anywhere. So let me just take a back seat. Let me take a step back. You know, you're still shining, don't get me wrong. You're not letting the destructive nature of how things are set up, you're not allowing that to affect you. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you need to you take a step back just to make sure you can keep shining in the first place. And I feel like that's why a lot of us, who would consider ourselves light bearers, that's where we're at, you know, to where, again, like I've just taken a back seat when it comes to those things because uh, there's only so much I can take. Like, you know what I mean? Not to mention me personally, I'm the kind of person where I really need to get to know a person first before saying, I actually like them or want to be with them. And that's a problem for me when I'm approaching people because it's like I may see a woman out there that's very attractive, but in my mind I'm like, okay, so am I approaching her just because I think she's attractive, or because it's like, okay, there's a potential that, you know, she could be somebody I actually end up resonating with. And it's always a 50-50, because it's like, okay, I know I am approaching this woman simply because she's attractive. I don't know her, right? I don't know who she is. I'm approaching her because she's attractive. But now there's a 50-50 chance that she's either somebody that I resonate with or that I don't. And it's like having to constantly coin flip every single time. Coin flip, coin flip, coin flip. Oh my god, it gets exhausting, you know what I mean? But that's just for me personally, right? I can't speak for anybody else on those matters. But it's just one of those things where, whew, tired, man, tired, exhausted, exhausted. And sometimes, you feel kind of bad almost, because it's like, oh man, what if my special person is like right there, or has just passed me by walking on the street, and I just missed that opportunity simply because I just didn't say hi, because I was too scared to feel pain again one more time. Sometimes, you can almost feel guilty, It's like, man, what if I had just spoken to them? What if I just said hi? What if I just asked for their number? It's not easy, It's really not. But anyways, the and I hope this video was helpful in terms of just, if what I've said resonated with you, if you feel the same way. Excuse me. Feel free to share your own experience about how, it is moving in the society, how things are, you know because again, what I firmly believe is that most people are good people. That's what I firmly believe. I believe most people are good people deep down inside. With the way things are structured, it puts people in a sort of, again, it brings out the worst in people, and that's what this society is designed to do. It's designed to bring out the worst. People become increasingly ruthless, opportunistic, selfish. There was even a study done that, the more money one has, it shuts off the part of their brain that has them feel empathy. And it makes sense because, how many billionaires and millionaires do you see? And you observe these people, and it's like they are so out of touch with reality. It's like they can't relate to like the average person. You don't relate to these people. They don't relate to you either. They can't, right? It's a huge issue, right? So back to what I was saying earlier. Most people are good people. They are, deep down inside. The real thing is, are we willing enough to just let all that icky muckiness go? Just let it go and see each other for who we really are. You know, are we strong enough to do that? Are you strong enough to do that? But yeah, just a little something I wanted to talk about. Because it's something that I realize, it's becoming an increasing issue. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. If you've reached this far, if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to give a like. If you are interested in seeing more content like this, then feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.